Today's games are brought to you by AE Engine Media Marketing, AmericanEagle.com, Bag Tags, Bubba Burger, Bullseye CMYK, Cliff Kid, Expand-A-Brand, Front Rush, Fusionetics, Dick's Sporting Goods. Today's games are also brought to you by Major League Soccer, Nestle Nesquik, Nike, NSCAA, Positive Coaching Alliance, Premier International Tours, US Soccer, Wilson Trophy Company, and Yokohama.
The road starts here. The road paved by pain, sacrifice, and struggle. The road paved by passion and pursuit. The road where dreams come true. On this road, many will fail, and on this road, many dreams will fade. But as for you, what will be your fate? When there are seconds left and you are running on fumes, will you be satisfied with almost? Or will you dig down into the dirt, take one more step and make one more play, knowing that good enough isn't good enough? And all the blood, sweat, and tears have brought you to this moment, the moment where pain turns to greatness. On this road, nothing is given, everything is taken. On this road, winners will rise to the top. Heroes will be made. And on this road, champions will be crowned.
It was 1935, the year that Elvis and Sandy Koufax were born. It was a year of many firsts, including the first NFL draft, the first Monopoly board game went on sale, Social Security began, and Babe Ruth hit his last home run. In addition to these milestones, the National Junior Challenge Cup was founded in 1935. Offering a youth competition for young men in the United States. The cup was later named the James P. McGuire Cup, after the late U.S. soccer president, who himself was quite a standout in his earlier days, winning the U.S. Open Cup in 1929. McGuire would lead U.S. soccer and earn an international reputation as an excellent leader.
The Jim McGuire Cup was started in 1935. It was the only cup that the United States Soccer Federation had for youth players. And it was a very good competition, and I can tell you, I mean, this was the highlight of my soccer career to be a champion in 1954.
This storied cup, now the oldest trophy in youth sport.
It has a history, it has a meaning, I think it has tradition. So I think it's extremely important for our competitions, for all the age groups that kind of emulate the McGuire Cup.
Winning the McGuire Cup is huge, just because all that history that comes along with the oldest trophy in youth sports period. That's really big for us.
Who will write their name in the next chapter of the storied McGuire Cup?
And a pleasant good morning to you from the U.S. Youth Soccer National Championships in Frisco, Texas. At the Toyota Soccer Center, we are underway in our first 1920 U Boys semifinal action. Thank you for being with us. Michael Westbrook here as the first kickoff goes out of bounds, and we're underway. In the red is the Chicago Fire Juniors South out of Chicago, Illinois. And in the blue, West Coast Haney out of California. We've seen both of these two teams here on field for during the tournament, so should be a fun matchup. We hope you're settled in and ready to go, even if it is 5 a.m. out on the West Coast there in California. You West Coast Haney fans, and a little bit earlier even in Chicago, a little bit later in Chicago there at 8 o'clock Chicago time. But 7:01 Central Time as we are underway, and the weather conditions here in Frisco. We're starting the day at 80 degrees. Feels like 85 because of that heat index. And today's high, well, not going to be quite as bad as it has been earlier in the week, but not just a whole lot of relief either. 96 degrees is our expected high temperature today. But good news is for this matchup and also our other semifinal at 9 a.m. in a different age division, the weather should be okay. That typical big heat wave usually comes through well after lunch, so should be all right. Only a 20% chance of rain today. Earlier on in the week, that was up to about 60%, and it gradually fell off throughout the course of the week, so now just only a 20% chance of rain here in Frisco. Again, just getting underway, Chicago Fire in the red uniforms, and they are moving right to left in the opening half. And meanwhile, West Coast Haney in the blue uniforms going the opposite direction. Also, one other thing failed to mention, the wind. We'll see how that factors in. It's out of the east this morning, 7 miles per hour. Definitely a different experience for us. The first 3 days of pool play, we saw a fairly steady south wind that was heading left to right on our field. So this is a little bit different out of the east, 7 miles per hour. Expect that to probably turn a little bit later on and become a south wind. West Coast Haney trying to get something going early on as Daniel Lind, who has scored a tournament goal, worked it just outside of the box there and foul called. So kick coming here for West Coast. Lind over in that area, but got a teammate joining him now. Yafet Sanchez. As Sanchez from just outside the box seems ready to go. We're in the 3rd minute, about to hit the 4th minute. Chance here for West Coast as Sanchez keeps it low, booted away. As Matthew Bahino, known as Tigre, works it up the field a moment ago, but then back the other direction. Cade Fink is in goal for the Chicago Fire, and Jared Andrews in goal for West Coast. Good takeaway by West Coast. They've got it midfield, working it down the right side now. West Coast Benjamin Martin was looking for some help, couldn't find it up front, decided to dish it back instead, and they'll work it across to the far side of the field. So a wise decision there early on from West Coast, not to push the issue and have a turnover, but instead to just work it back, set things up. Kevin Catalon, and they continue to work it left. Knock away from the Chicago Fire. A couple of headers back and forth, loose ball, and West Coast will pick it up. Our semifinal action in the 1920U boys division. The other semifinal is taking place right now as well on field 5. And we'll be lucky enough to have the championship of the 19U and 1920 and U boys championship on Sunday, tomorrow morning. So for one of these two teams, they'll be quite comfortable on field 4. This is the second match that these two have played over here on this field, not against each other. First time to play against each other. Here comes the Chicago Fire, and the back line knocking that one away, and now they clear it all the way out back to midfield. Picked up by Daniel Lind. He works it over to the right side to Galadima. And back to Lind. He'll look back up to Galadima, and a little bit of space for him. Cross into the box, nothing there. Intended for his teammate William Ospina. We have several other semifinals going on right now across the Toyota Soccer Center. Just heard a big cheer off to our right, so somebody may have already put a point on the board. Everybody starting at about the same time. And we'll keep you updated on that other semifinal game so you don't have to flip over there. You can continue to watch your teams here. Butler, strong kick up the left side, nobody there. Goalkeeper's going to come out for West Coast. Jared Andrews, send it back to midfield. Header by Anthony Markinick. Battle down the sideline, possession Chicago Fire. Throw in for Markinick. West Coast trying to work it to the middle, but it was knocked away there. And Chicago Fire not quite able to control that one cleanly, so West Coast is going to have a throw in directly in front of us. The team benches here across the way from us. West Coast bench off to the left, and the Chicago Fire basically straight across the way from our broadcast location. Galadima. Yeah, not much there. Good defense. Into the 8th minute of action in the early going. No score. Chicago Fire and West Coast. 1920U boys semifinal action. West Coast taking over the possession here. And it is into Kevin Catalan. Booted to the middle and worked to the right side. Galadima up in front, right side. Couldn't get it to him. Instead, a little bit slower move. Now Galadima. Back to the middle, and the ball movement continues. Benjamin Martin. Up in front, looking for Brett Haney. Not going to be able to get it to him. Chicago Fire in their 3 preliminary contests had a 1-1 tie against FC United, their big rival there from Illinois. Had a 2-1 victory over Dix Hills Elite from New York. And a big 5-1 win. That was a game here on this field on Thursday. 5-1 win over the team out of Oklahoma, OFC 98. Stoppage in goal that time. And a great grab by Chicago Fire's goalkeeper, Cade Fink, with that pressure right in front of him. Got a whistle. A little confusion there for, I think, the Chicago Fire. Schuler over on the far side of the field, controlling for the Chicago Fire with some pressure in front of him. West Coast with some good defense in the early going. Ball towards midfield, now worked it over to the left side. Who's going to come up with it? Finally, Markinick's able to do so. That one stayed in the middle for a minute there. West Coast Haney, takeaway. Up top looking for Lind, poked free by Chicago Fire. Good job that time not to give Daniel Lind any sort of footing. Ethan Butler. Thought Lind would have the throw in, but he was telling his teammate to come over here and take it from him. So Dane Rosas will throw it in. Rosas works it to Galadima, and the back line pokes it away for the Chicago Fire. Battle for it. A little bit of a tripping there, and they're going to call it. Kevin Catalan knocking down Christopher Sullivan. Where did the ball end up after all that? Okay, back behind the goal. That colorful soccer ball, and I couldn't find it. It's a little too early for me, I guess. I don't know. Schuler over to the far side, works it up to, let's see, I think that was Moat, maybe? Roeder left side to Markinick. Another pass to Tigray. Tigray just outside the box on the cross, finds somebody, and taken away by Galadima. Opportunity a moment ago there for the Chicago Fire. They still keep it, and now the goalkeeper will be able to track it down. Jared Andrews with the stop. West Coast had a 5-0 loss to Challenger Crew Gold out of Ohio. Devastating start to their tournament play. Countered with a win over an Ohio team, 3-0 over OP Green. Ball sent in front to Sanchez, being chased by Moat. Sanchez will have a throw in. And then in their third match right here over on Field 4 on Thursday, 1-1 tie to Penn Fusion from Pennsylvania. They scored in the 80th minute to tie the game at 1 and stay 1 point ahead of Penn Fusion in the standings to make it to the semifinals. Penn Fusion had scored fairly early in the second half and looked like they might hold on to it, but a very late goal from West Coast ended up giving them the advantage. Not in the contest, it was a tie, but an advantage in the standings. Throw in from the Chicago Fire, far side of the field. Moat throwing it in. Chicago Fire out in front here. Back across the middle. Still controlled by Becht. Oh, tried to wind one up and had it deflected away. Strong header back the other way by Butler. Ball placed up in front for, I think that's Markinick. Nicholas Markinick. He has it taken away, will slide across a couple of times to keep the possession for his team, and now Chicago Fire kick it out. I would love to know who's keeping track of the game numbers or if this is even an actual game number, but the official number is listed as 64571, our official game number. Maybe that's how many have been played out here at the Toyota Soccer Center over the years. I don't know. Fifteenth minute of action in our first semifinal here. Chicago Fire and West Coast, no score. This one's going to head on back to the goalkeeper. Andrews tracks it down. Four goals scored in the tournament so far for West Coast. More explosive offense on the other side. Chicago Fire have scored 8 goals now. A big part of that due to their 5-1 victory over OFC 98 on Thursday. Both teams had the day off yesterday, and so semifinals today, championship tomorrow. Strong kick across the middle by Catalan, but Chicago Fire there for it. Schuler. John Schuler stutters before passing away to Markinick. Ball worked in the middle, a scramble for it, see who's going to come up with it. Sullivan, Christopher Sullivan for the Chicago Fire. And Sullivan racing past one man. He'll wind one up and send it in. Caught by Jared Andrews. Jared Andrews in goal for West Coast, making the stop. Got a foul call, then a Sanchez went stumbling for West Coast. A yellow card issued. Yellow card issued to Connor Moat for the Chicago Fire. That coming here in the 17th minute. Abraham Ordaz will set up the free kick. Ordaz spins one into the box. Galadima looking for Lind. Chicago Fire back to midfield. And West Coast decides to go back to the goalkeeper, Andrews. Good battle going between Markinick and Rosas, or Markinick and Haney. Chicago Fire have it. This will set it up for Elijah Mongeris. Mongeris on the free kick. Mongeris, line drive type attempt, header goes wide right there. Grazing off of Chicago Fire player and couldn't quite get that one in. Angle wasn't quite there for him. Update for you across the way, 1-1, the score already in the 18th minute between FC United and Challenger Crew. A couple of early goals in that one. Oh, the 6th minute, that was the big roar we heard earlier, I think, getting the first goal, and 10 minutes later made it 1-1. Oh, both of them scoring in the 16th minute, okay. I talk about getting some momentum and then having all the air taken out of the balloon if you're the team that scored first. West Coast works it back up top. Rosas open. Galadima will keep it. Chicago Fire cleaning that one out, sending it up to Peter Becht. Didn't take long, though. West Coast with it back. Lind just at the box. Now here comes West Coast. And that one ends up with Chicago Fire. Good job of the Chicago Fire that time as Matthew Bahina. Up to Sullivan. Sullivan keeps. Now has it taken away. West Coast with a steal at midfield. 21st minute of play here in the opening half. Lind couldn't handle it cleanly. Beck for Chicago Fire with a takeaway. Fire haven't been able to really get the ball past midfield. They've had a couple of takeaways last few possessions and then end up losing it right back. So here they go again, see if they can get something going this time. Their fans trying to encourage them. Rotor controlling. Short little pass. They didn't see anything they liked, so back to the goalkeeper and starting over. Slightly different approach for the Chicago Fire to slow things down and wait on an opportunity. Now they work it down at their end. Markinick, hard fire across the middle. West Coast there for it. I think there was offsides there on Lind. Sullivan needing a little bit of help, finds Rotor. Hard punch left side, Markinick. And down to Bahina. West Coast gets the knockaway and ends up out of bounds actually off of Chicago Fire. One placed inside the box there and trying to pull it down with the chest was Markinick, but too much of a ricochet, and West Coast comes back away with it. The James P. McGuire Cup on the line. This is our semifinal action. Chicago Fire, West Coast, 23rd minute, no score. It's the oldest of the 14 championships. It wasn't until just a couple of years ago that they added the 13U division. So at one time it was 12 championships, and believe it or not, at one time there was only one championship. They only played the 1920U contest. It actually dates back all the way to 1935. Have played every year except for during the World War II years. Galadima trying to get into the box and deflected off of Markinick. Looks like we're going to have a sub for West Coast coming here in just a moment. There we go. Need the soccer ball, guys. It was stuck back behind the net. Nobody was really too worried about it. Galadima's going to go track it down now. So Galadima sets up the corner kick. 25th minute of action for West Coast. Too much leg that time from Galadima. Punched it all the way across the field and out of play. But again, for the first time in the tournament, we're seeing the wind east to west. It has been going south to north, and so that played a little bit of a factor there. About a 7-mile-an-hour wind out of the east. Picked up a little bit now at this point. James McGuire was the United States Soccer Federation president. Trophy was renamed after him and for his namesake in 1975. So it's been the McGuire Cup for quite some time now. And that's on the line tomorrow in the championship. One of these teams will be in that championship. Flag goes up, and I've got an offsides on West Coast, giving it back to Chicago Fire. In the early minutes, we saw Chicago Fire kind of pressing, getting the ball in position early. Now they've taken a much slower approach. And that approach has been because of the defense of West Coast. Here they are with another takeaway. And now they begin to press the issue just a bit. How about this 1-on-4 there for a moment? And a big wind-up from a long ways. Too high over the goal off the foot of Spencer Madden. Fire probably feeling pretty confident after their 5-1 victory against OFC 98. Again, 8 goals scored by the Chicago Fire. They have given up only 3. Meanwhile, the West Coast stats somewhat lopsided because of their opening matchup where they gave up 5 goals. Since then, their goalkeeper was able to have a clean sheet in the second contest. West Coast takeaway again. Player goes down for Chicago Fire. No whistle, no foul. And Chicago Fire able to get it back now. Again, gave up 1 goal to Penn Fusion. So only 1 goal in their last 2 matchups after that 5-goal contest in the first one. Schuler has it poked free. West Coast looks to move. Up in front, trying to go to Lind. Can't do so, and Fink out of the goalie's box to come up and make a grab. Schuler works it right side rotor towards the middle. He continues to move it left side over to Butler. Up in front, Markinek. Can he chase this one down? He will not be able to. Already about to hit the 30th minute of play. We got started right at 7 o'clock, so we're on schedule, and no score between Chicago Fire and West Coast. Talked about the defense quite a bit of West Coast, but even when they have been able to get all those takeaways, they haven't been able to do just a whole lot with it yet. Fire try to go into the middle. Not going to happen. Goalkeeper there again. Oh, that got a little dangerous there. Don't know if he saw the Chicago Fire player out of the corner of his eye on the other side. Finally decided to pick it up. Madden along the edge. Good battle there. Bahina. I think he got it. Yeah, he did. Yeah, it was off of West Coast. Matthew Bahina for the Chicago Fire, 2 goals scored. That's the tops on his team. Peter Beck also with 2. Meanwhile, nobody with more than 1 for West Coast. Good takeaway there by the Chicago Fire. 30 minutes into this one, no score. Peter Beck works it left side, Markinek. Strong kick upfield. Is he able to find his brother Markinek? He is. Nicholas Markinek back across, stopped in goal. Peter Beck had a look. Jared Andrews again makes a grab. Lind is kind of the key figure for West Coast, and they're doing what they can to get him involved early, but Chicago Fire has keyed in on that. A long boot, and West Coast We'll send it out. Throw in for Ethan Butler. No, he's going to give way to his teammate instead. Throw in went to Butler. As Becht in the middle. Becht falls down. No whistle there. Far side. And a header. We'll send this one away. West Coast controlling. Knocked down by Schuler for Chicago Fire. Another Chicago Fire player fell down just a moment ago. Last couple of mornings the grass has been a little bit wet, probably because of a sprinkler system. Didn't check it this morning, but I imagine that's probably the case. Field's still in pretty good shape. Got some yellowing patches around the goal area, but that's to be expected this time of year and on the fourth day of competition here on this field. The wind has intensified now, and again, it's a different wind today going east to west. It may affect some of the corner kicks, although we haven't had very many of those so far in this one into the 34th minute. A foul called against Chicago Fire. West Coast Benjamin Martin falling down. FC United and Challenger Crew playing over on Field 5, the other semifinal matchup. West Coast getting everybody in position here in the 34th minute of action. Pretty good ball in at the net, and it is still in the air for a moment. Good job in goal there by Fink. He was also maybe interfered with a bit, as it looked as if Jonathan Stoop had some contact with him. A well-placed ball at the net and a good job by Fink. Still an opportunity for West Coast. The threat still here. Corner kick is coming. However, we'll have a sub first for West Coast. Sanchez is going to go out. West Coast in the navy blue uniform, Chicago Fire in the red. 35th minute of play. Here comes the corner. Spinning ball, and Wafa one hop picked up by Fink. He thought about rushing it out, then decided to protect it instead. Fire play backwards to Schuler, now worked across midfield, and that one knocked out. Referees letting these two sides play quite a bit so far here in the first half. Just about less than 10 minutes to go in this first half, and neither side has been able to gain any sort of momentum yet. Chicago Fire giving some space across the middle there, works it to Schuler. Schuler trying to find Becht to take away. Abraham Ordaz for West Coast. That doesn't last long, but now they do retain the possession off the left side. Lind back to Martin. There's a foul called. Ordaz with the free kick for West Coast. A line drive right to Fink, and he'll make the stop. I'd say that both of these teams have had the possession about an even amount of time. We've seen some contests where it's been dominated by one side or the other in the first half. Not the case here. Fire try to work it up the field. And Peter Becht crosses it over the middle there to Sullivan. Can't hold on to it cleanly, and it ends up going out. Got a foul here. We'll give Chicago Fire a free kick. So let's see what they elect to do with this here in the 39th minute. A sub coming for Chicago Fire. Nicholas Anweiler is entering. Kick from Connor Moat. Header up over the top of the goal and out of play. That Penn Fusion West Coast game, that 1-1 contest we told you about, it was I said 80th minute goal, but it was actually Daniel Lind in the 83rd minute that was able to level the score and put West Coast into a position to advance. And it was really all about their defense that maintained a level presence throughout, and both sides have been able to do that here in this one as well. Ball up in front to Markinick. Tried to put it into the box, and West Coast was having no part of that. 41st minute of the first half. 2 45-minute halves in this age division, as you probably know. In the lower age divisions, they play a little bit less. Some of them 40, some of them 35. We'll have some champions crowned tonight. The 13 and 14U boys and girls divisions will crown a champion, so if you want to watch some more soccer, you can do that tonight. Markinick floats it up. Goalkeeper is there for it. Jared Andrews, another grab. Andrews kicks it downfield and off of West Coast. That's going to give it right back to Chicago Fire, as West Coast couldn't reel that one in. Across the middle to Sullivan. Here we go for the Chicago Fire, and a stop made, but it's still loose even. And West Coast will poke it away. And the goalkeeper is still down at the other end. This could be an issue. He is writhing in pain. He's yet to get up. West Coast knocking the ball out there. And the referee will stop play. 42nd minute of action here, and Chicago Fire had an opportunity there a moment ago. They'll take a Opportunity to get a breather, get some water. Andrews is back up now. Man, we just need a parent to run over here and bring us a bottle of water, right? I better not say that. Somebody will do it. We don't need that. Andrews bouncing around a little bit in goal. See how that affects him here. He's probably going to be looking for the break in a hurry. Chicago Fire need to try to put some pressure on him now. Schuler at midfield. Works it to the middle. Good block off there that time by Markinick to get control of it. Back to Schuler behind the line. Sitting at about a little over 2 minutes to go in the first half. Chicago Fire elect to redirect this one back the other way. Over on the left side, Butler. Butler across the midway line, looking for some help, finds downfield Tigre, and we've got it out off of West Coast, so a throw in for Markinick. A sub for West Coast first. Lind is going to go out. Looks like maybe our referee showing the time over there. Couldn't quite tell what he was doing with that big board. So throw in for Markinick. About a minute and a half left here in this first half. Chicago Fire have to go back to midfield with it to Butler. Ball loose, and Tigre giving chase here. Goalkeeper will come out and make the stop. Ends that little threat. So West Coast just took Daniel Lind out. He's been one of their main scorers. See who they try to work it to instead here. It won't matter because Chicago Fire are able to get it back. These teams coming into the semifinal on two different ends of the spectrum. A 5-1 win for OFC 98. That game was in hand in the second half pretty early. And it was a 1-1 game on the other side. Beck looks left. Try to find Markinick too far out in front of him. That may have been Sullivan there. Or a little bit past the 45-minute mark. They may have stopped play when the goalkeeper was down. So, again, we don't have an official scoreboard out here. We have to rely on the whistle from the referee. But he wasn't down very long, so we're somewhere about a minute, minute and a half maybe. Scramble at midfield, and Schuler kicks it across. Markinick, good job of Markinick to get a hold of that one. Now Roeder. Chicago Fire trying to put something across in the first half. A little bit of a misplay there from Butler, overran the ball. He recovers though. Downfield, here goes Bahina, cross, and nobody comes up with it. Harmlessly rolls to the other side and out of play. And that will bring us to the close of the first half. No score between the Chicago Fire and West Coast here in the USYS Soccer National Championships from Frisco, Texas. We'll have a break in the action. Hope you'll stay with us or at least come back for the start of the second half here in about 10 minutes.
Today's games are brought to you by AE Engine Media Marketing, AmericanEagle.com, Bag Tags, Bubba Burger, Bullseye CMYK, Cliff Kid, Expanda Brand, Front Rush, Fusionetics, Dick's Sporting Goods. Today's games are also brought to you by Major League Soccer, Nesquik, Nike, NSCAA, Positive Coaching Alliance, Premier International Tours, U.S. Soccer, Wilson Trophy Company, and Yokohama.
The road starts here. The road paved by pain, sacrifice, and struggle. The road paved by passion and pursuit. The road where dreams come true. On this road, many will fail, and on this road, many dreams will fade. But as for you, what will be your fate? When there are seconds left and you are running on fumes, will you be satisfied with almost? Or will you dig down into the dirt, take one more step and make one more play, knowing that good enough isn't good enough, and all the blood, sweat, and tears have brought you to this moment, the moment where pain turns to greatness. On this road, nothing is given, everything is taken. On this road, winners will rise to the top. Heroes will be made. And on this road, champions will be crowned.
It was 1935, the year that Elvis and Sandy Koufax were born. It was a year of many firsts, including the first NFL draft, the first Monopoly board game went on sale, Social Security began, and Babe Ruth hit his last home run. In addition to these milestones, the National Junior Challenge Cup was founded in 1935. Offering a youth competition for young men in the United States. The cup was later named the James P. McGuire Cup, after the late U.S. Soccer president, who himself was quite a standout in his earlier days, winning the U.S. Open Cup in 1929. McGuire would lead U.S. soccer and earn an international reputation as an excellent leader.
The Jimmy Quiet Cup was started in 1935. It was the only cup that the United States Soccer Federation had for youth players. And it was a very good competition, and I can tell you, I mean, this was the highlight of my soccer career to be a champion in 1954.
This storied cup, now the oldest trophy in youth sport.
It has a history, it has a meaning, I think it has tradition. So I think it's extremely important for our competitions, for all the age groups that kind of emulate the Maguire Cup.
Winning the Maguire Cup is huge, just because all that history that comes along with the oldest trophy in youth sports period, that's really big for us.
Who will write their name in the next chapter of the storied Maguire Cup?
And we're ready for the start of the second half in our 1920 U Boys Division semifinal contest featuring the Chicago Fire in the red uniforms, switching into the field this time and going left to right now in the second half. And West Coast Haney in the Navy uniforms out of California, going right to left. No score after one half of play. One half left to determine which team will move on to the championship. Their opponent will either be FC United out of Chicago Crew or a Challenger Crew Gold. And kind of interesting to see maybe a rematch of some of our earlier matchups. FC United played Chicago Fire earlier in the tournament. West Coast played Challenger Crew. So again, it's the top two teams from each group play. They had Group A and Group B play. Top seed from Group A plays the second seed from Group B. And then vice versa is how that works to get us the setup that we have. Bahena looks across the middle and booted way up in the air that time by West Coast back line. Ball still moving up the field on the right side by Madden. Now the goalkeeper will clear it out. First half of play there, just kind of didn't see a whole lot of action. Few opportunities from each side, but just really only a couple of really good looks from each side. There wasn't a whole lot, some of them a bit forced and some of them just missing. We'll see if that changes much here in the second half. That ball's rocketed out of play. Chicago Fire will have the throw in. In fact, because of the ball being played near midfield quite a bit and even into the backfield by both teams, we didn't see a lot of action around the goal, and that limited corner opportunities. Saw very few fouls as well. A couple of players collide there, no whistle, and they keep on playing. Good sliding tackle that time by the Chicago Fire, but it still stays with Martin of West Coast. Goalkeeper Jared Andrews for West Coast went down with a bit of an injury, but other than that, it was just a normal first half. Nobody really in bad shape either way. Again, very few fouls, set up very few free kicks, and I think because of that, nobody was really able to gain any sort of momentum. Sometimes those free kicks, those corner kicks can really change the landscape of the contest, and we did not have that much in the first half. We will have a throw in coming here from the far side of the field. Galadima will throw it in. Again, FC United and Challenger Crew playing over on Field 5. Get you some updates on that one throughout this one as well, as we're in the second half now. Chicago Fire Junior South and West Coast Haney. Two Illinois teams remaining, one from Ohio and one from California. May have a little bit different audience today as we've hit the weekend. Some of you may have been at work and not have been able to watch. Still very early out in California, just after 6 a.m. 9 o'clock there in Illinois. 8 o'clock here local time in Frisco, Texas, 8:05. So for some of you, it may be repeat information, but in case we do have any new folks, we're just near the FC Dallas Stadium, the Toyota Stadium. Chicago Fire look to wind one up. Good block. Sliding play there from West Coast. I believe that was William Ospina. Longeris, good backwards pass, and West Coast was ready for it, and Martin. Getting to the point in the contest where you're seeing nervous, anxious parents pacing the sidelines, focusing in on every pass, every opportunity. You hear a sigh of relief or angst on any sort of shot attempt. These youngsters have been working hard not only this summer but throughout their careers for a moment like this. Good news for the team that wins. They go on to the championship tomorrow, and there's still some good news in a sense for the team that loses. They can probably head back to their colleges pretty soon and get ready for their college season. Played at midfield by the Fire. Christopher Sullivan. Sullivan stutters, now heads forward. Stop by Sullivan, needs some help. Stolen across the middle there by Ospina. Ospina looks to work it up front to Sanchez, but can't do so. Off of the head of Sanchez for West Coast, and the ball loose in the air. West Coast comes down with it. Acosta, far kick right side. Spencer Madden pressing his way in. Starts the array of moves with the feet. And Madden being pressured heavily by Markinek. Here come the Chicago Fire across midfield, looking for something in the middle, and it was just not quite there yet for Sullivan. And now here's a big wind-up too high over the goalpost, off the foot of Bahina. Well, they had a formation there that looked like it would give them a chance, but again, that West Coast back line not giving them any edge. .52 minute of play already here. Definitely want to say a big thank you to all of the parents who have helped us along the way throughout this tournament. Not always easy to obtain an accurate roster and get all of the names pronounced properly. Still trying to make sure we do that, but parents have been helpful to get that information to us, and makes our job a little bit easier here. Opportunity lost for West Coast there. Throw in coming for the Chicago Fire. Goalkeeper will send it away. Laughing with one parent earlier about the Chicago Fire, there's a chance they could still play FC United again, their rival. The two teams located just 40 minutes away from each other. They started the tournament against each other on a Tuesday in a 1-1 tie, and they may have to come all the way down here to Frisco to play each other again in the championship. Still a little ways away from that, however. Game still developing at a similar pace as it did in the first half. Chicago Fire with a takeaway. West Coast right back, Ordaz. Foul with a tripping call that'll give it to the Chicago Fire. Butler on the far side looks downfield, and offsides is the call. The flag up from the referee directly in front of us. Against Chicago Fire with a draw against FC United, 1-1 in their first contest, and a 2-1 victory over Dix Hills Elite out of New York, 5-1 over OFC 98 from Oklahoma, to go 2-0-1. That one missing right of the goal. 1-1-1 for West Coast, 5-0 loss to Challenger Crew, 3-0 win against OP Green from Ohio. First two opponents out of Ohio, and then a tie 1-1 against Penn Fusion from Pennsylvania. That was quite the matchup and a good experience for these players to play teams from all over the country. Just outside the box there, Chicago Fire player falls down, and West Coast comes away with it one more time. So much talk about this West Coast team being defensive-minded. They have definitely gotten it together since their first contest on Tuesday, the 5-0 loss. Galadima electing to punch it downfield. Jonathan Stoop, his teammate on the far side, was throwing his hands up in the air looking for the ball to come back to him. He, however, did not receive it from his teammate, and so the Chicago Fire have it. Somebody looking for a breakaway. Is this maybe the opportunity here as Christopher Sullivan redirects, still controlling. Sullivan waits for some help. Can they get a shot? Not quite there. Instead, it's a pass into the box from Majerus, and West Coast holds up one more time. Rosas, deep kick downfield. Here's a steal from the Chicago Fire, and no pass there. Was taken away by West Coast. This is playing out very similar to the first half when Chicago Fire would come up with a steal, then West Coast would get it right back 5 or 10 yards downfield. Have to decide, do you start passing the ball a little bit quicker or do you go even slower? It seems like the slow pace right now is not working. The defense is able to shift quick enough to get in place. Problem with going a little bit faster is you may not have the same accuracy. The wind's still out of the east, up to 10 miles an hour now. Had a period of time a couple days ago where it was out of the south at close to 15 miles an hour. Here's Sanchez working left side. Taken away, Chicago Fire, midfield. Here come the Chicago Fire. No score, 59th minute of play. Along the right edge, Markinek. Towards the box, can't quite get in there. Becht works it left side. deflected off of West Coast and now cleared back near midfield. Madden working on Markinick, now draws some extra defense. Kicked out off of Chicago Fire. West Coast will have a corner kick opportunity. One of the rare opportunities in this one from West Coast on the corner, 60th minute of play. Corner for West Coast along that right post, and good job to keep it out of the net. Nicholas Markinick. Markinick pass a little bit behind Majerus. Majerus cannot work it around his defender. Doesn't have a lot of help either. Now Majerus, cross, header, up high, too high. Long setup for Jared Andrews. And we also had a sub for West Coast. There's the whistle. Play resumes. Madden over to Fuerte, and the ball is out of bounds off of Chicago Fire. Throw in for West Coast on the far side. Throw into Sanchez, and that one deflected out off of Chicago Fire. So, saw a corner opportunity a little while ago. David Fuerte is going to set up another one here for West Coast. 62nd minute of play. Kick from Fuerte, right to the goalkeeper. Fink makes the stop. Chicago Fire trying to get everybody in line. Championship for the 1920 U boys will be at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. Mentioned a little bit earlier, we've got some championships tonight. 13U, 14U girls coming up first on field 5 and 6, and then 13U boys, 14U boys over at field 7 and 8. They'll start at 7 o'clock tonight and begin every 15 minutes. 10 championships tomorrow. Again, the 19 and 20 boys and girls will start things off. We've got that boys championship right here on this field. Then at 9 o'clock will be the 15U boys championship here on field 4. '64th minute of play now. Still no score between the Chicago Fire. West Coast another takeaway. Midfield Martin. Martin redirects to a teammate, has it back. Quezada Sorno controlling, and he was tripped up. Free kick here for Quezada Sorno. West Coast ready to go. A booming kick. Header by Chicago Fire. And punched back out near midfield. Galadima winds one up. Across left side. Back to the right side. Too high for the header. And that ball will be played out. When you get to this level of competition, semifinals in the oldest age bracket, you don't see a whole lot of penalties, infractions. You don't even see a whole lot of goals either. So, two premier teams playing against each other right now. Kind of get the feel that one might do it. Chicago Fire control up in front on the right side. Majerus around Orsono. Majerus attempting to find Moat. Moat loses it. That'll give it right back to West Coast. Sub for West Coast, as I believe Daniel Lind is now back in. That kick from Jared Andrews misses and heads out of play, so not quite the kick Jared Andrews wanted. Actually kicked that one into the wind and somehow still got it out of play, so just not a clean kick from him. Markinick over to Sullivan. Sullivan tripped up. Stoop, the guilty party there for West Coast. Sullivan hobbling a bit. Kick coming from Elijah Mangeris. 68th minute of action now. No score. Chicago Fire looking for that first goal. Sullivan was knocked around a bit. Majerus punches it right off of the West Coast player and out. Don't know if that was his intention, if he would wanted a corner maybe. It looked like he aimed right at him, but here comes the corner from Majerus now. A low-lining corner kick and a pretty good header there by Roeder to keep it back at their end, at least for a while here. Pass in the middle, it's still loose. Set up on the left foot, kick and no is deflected. Markinick couldn't get it to go, but wasn't quite sure who that was deflected off of for West Coast, but corner upcoming again for Chicago Fire, and now we're starting to see Chicago Fire keep the ball on their end. starting to get some opportunities. And again, a low kick. Knocked back out. Did they make the call there? They did. A holding call. Foul against West Coast. Momentum with the Chicago Fire right now, and Majerus another one. Just inside the goalkeeper box, it's down on the ground, and it is going to be taken by West Coast. Galadima fires downfield. Chicago fires Moat with it. Moat to the middle. May have been a hold there by Martin without a call. I'm no expert on that, though, so kind of have to take the reaction of the fans. Another stop by the goalkeeper, that time for the Chicago Fire, is Cade Fink. Goes down to the grass to make the grab. Only about 20 minutes left in this one, still no score. Battle between Galadima and Bahina. And back to the goalkeeper and Andrews. That one goes up too high. Soccer's an interesting game. You don't really quite see the panic that you see from other sports. We're not quite to the end yet. Still 20 minutes. That's a significant amount of time, and within the next 5 to 10, 5 to 7 minutes, I'm sure you're going to see the intensity pick up quite a bit. But right now, it's as if these two teams feel like they're 10 minutes into the contest, just kind of back and forth. Although Chicago Fire had a few opportunities down at their end a little while ago. And again, it goes back to the fact that you get to this level, you don't see too many fouls called. Teams know how to play the game well, and you don't have those momentum free kicks and corner kicks as often as you do in maybe a younger division or earlier rounds of competition where the teams are not as high of a quality. Although everybody that makes it to nationals is a good team. West Coast controlling, number 47, Jonathan Stoop. Looking up ahead to Osorno. Sanchez there wants a call, won't get it. Looked as if Fink might try to kick it deep, and at the last second just punched it over to his teammate. Markinek over to Beck. Beck works it left side, back up top to Beck now. Finds a man open, Majerus, and we got a push from Majerus. Teams competing in our next matchup here on this field out of the 17U division, Michigan Jaguars out of Michigan and FC Dallas right here out of this area, already warming up on the field over from us. And again, they'll keep everything pretty well on schedule, so that's assuming somebody scores a goal. Now you really get the feel that one would do it here. 74th minute of action. West Coast, there's a header, and no, does not go for West Coast. Chicago Fire racing the other direction. Good sliding stop. Oh, we got a trip. Foul called against West Coast. Christopher Sullivan again. He was limping earlier. Sullivan's going to give way to his teammate. Manjaris with the free kick. And that header's going to go left of the goal, out of play. Oh, fight for the ball there, and Quesada Osorno comes away with it for West Coast. Down to Fuerte. Fuerte trying to get around his defender. Cross into the box, and it won't go. Who was that off of is the question. It was off of West Coast, so Chicago Fire can take it back. See if Chicago Fire can come away with something here. Too high and far to the right. Just got underneath that one. He needed more of a 6-iron straight ahead instead of a pitching wedge up into the air. Took a big divot out of the grass on that one, and good opportunity a moment ago from the Chicago Fire. Osorno with the throw in. Ricochets back to him. Stoop with the free kick off of Chicago Fire there. Throw in from near the corner. And Osorno's going to be the one to throw it in. He does. Out again. We got a corner kick for West Coast. Sanchez. And it looked like Sanchez was going to hurry, but now wants to get everybody in position. May not have too many of these opportunities left. Now instead of Sanchez, it'll be Spencer Madden. Madden from the corner here, 78th minute of play. West Coast. Trying to find the back of the net, won't be able to do so there. Good deflection from the back line. Couldn't quite tell who it was that time, but the ball's still loose, and Galadima will punch one in. Chicago Fire come away with it. Downfield, here come the Chicago Fire. And might have an opportunity here, looking for something across the middle. Galadima for West Coast is there. Again, it looks like the Chicago Fire are trying to get that cross through the middle, anticipating without realizing that they don't have a lot of help across the middle. The passes are a little bit too far out in front of where the teammates are at. Free kick coming from Moat. 79th minute of action. Chicago Fire just looking for one. Moat with the kick. The header comes from Kevin Catalan. Still free, and the goalkeeper comes up with it. He hurries it downfield. Only has one man back that way. We got a hold against West Coast. West Coast, Yaphet Sanchez called for the foul. Ball stolen away at midfield. Quesada Osorno. Osorno down the left line, and there's going to be a foul called, I believe. Yep, Connor Moat for Chicago Fire. 80th minute of play in our 1920U semifinal. Chicago Fire in the red, West Coast in the blue. And we've got about 10.5 minutes to go. Here comes Spencer Madden. Madden to the right post, knocked away by the goalkeeper, Fink. Update for you from Field 5. As the Challenger crew now leads 2-1 after a penalty kick goal in the 79th minute of play. Challenger crew over FC United right now. That one just about to come to an end. Sub for the Chicago Fire. We've seen very few subs in this one. Nicholas Anweiler back in. Looked like Osorno lost his footing there for a moment. Intensity definitely beginning to pick up here. Markinek on the far side. Both sides indicating they have possession. Chicago Fire will get it. Throw in from Markinek. Something looking to break for Chicago Fire. Ball worked right side. Anweiler just came in inside the box. Wind it up, and a diving stop made by Andrews. Andrews waiting for the right alignment, now finds Jonathan Stoop. Stoop to midfield for West Coast. Punches it right. Who was that intended for? Taken away. Bahina comes up with it for Chicago Fire on a bad pass. And Bahina still working down that left line. Again, there's another anticipated pass that went behind Markinek. Passes have been either too far out in front or behind. Players falling all over the place. Ball still loose. No whistle either way, and now we have a Chicago Fire player pushed in the back, and the foul is called on West Coast as Ethan Butler took the hit. Chicago Fire worked the ball to midfield. 7 minutes or so remaining here in this one. No score. Ball punched up to Anweiler. Can he get some space? Anweiler still going, and the goalkeeper comes away with it again. One of those moments there where much more contact may have resulted in a foul, but There was no call, and rightfully so. West Coast, that one's going to go well out of play that time. Off the foot of Sanchez. Cade Fink taking his time here. Wind seems to have died down now. That's not been much of a factor in this one. We're just a little bit above 80 degrees. Temperature's right for a good contest, and it's been a good one so far. Again, still no score. Header from the Chicago Fire as they look to get something upfield. Maybe one of their best chances. The ball's still loose, and it's going to be cleared out. Well, Nicholas Markinek played that about as well as he could, and just didn't quite get enough on it. A little bit more, and I think that one would have gone. Back behind the goal that time, out of play. Markinek was patient with it as it floated over his head. Waited on the goalkeeper to come out. Got just a little bit on it, but not enough. Collision at midfield, and the referee says that was a little too far out in front. Got to back the soccer ball up near midfield. Spencer Madden was trying to do what he could to catch Chicago Fire napping for a moment there, but the referee realized that's what was happening. Pulled the ball back. Jonathan Stoop to kick near midfield. Pretty good effort there from Stoop. Ball loose and missing right is Brett Haney. Both of our semifinal games playing at basically the same pace here. 87th minute of action where Challenger Crew has a 2-1 lead on FC United. Over here, no score in the 87th minute, and Connor Moat is being held. Chicago Fire with it. Nicholas Markinek. Markinek wanting some help, will give to Anweiler. Chicago Fire will look to keep it on their end for a while here. Into the box, we got contact with the goalkeeper and Bahina. Andrews coming down with that one. Be interesting to see how much farther they let them play on past our 90-minute mark, because we've had very few stoppages and very few subs here in the second half. So I believe the overtime setup is a 15-minute period. Throw in from the far side for Chicago Fire. We're down to about a minute to go here. Fire cannot get anything there. West Coast punches it out. Fire maintain possession. another one punched back out. Back to midfield, Daniel Lind. Lind falls down. They call the whistle on Lind. Chicago Fire have it. And now the referee issues a yellow card to Daniel Lind here in the 89th minute of play. So about a minute to go here now. Connor Moat will have the kick. Moat sends it high into the box, right to the goalkeeper, Andrews. And that is going to be the second half. No score here between the Chicago Fire and West Coast. We'll take a quick little break here and make sure we have all of the rules for you when we come back. Again, no score, Chicago Fire and West Coast. Back in a moment here from Frisco, Texas. Welcome back to the Toyota Soccer Complex in Frisco, Texas. The U.S. Youth Soccer National Championships. No score after regulation between the Chicago Fire and West Coast Haney, so here we are continuing on. Chicago Fire in the red, West Coast in the navy blue. We'll play two 15-minute halves, and they'll play it all the way out. No golden goal situation here, and so if they go beyond that point, then we're looking at penalty kicks. After that intermission there, we're back to play again. So you wouldn't expect much less, right? A lot on the line here. Our other semifinal game has come to an end. Challenger Crew Gold defeating FC United 2-1. They scored a goal in the 79th minute. That ended up being the difference going ahead and finishing off FC United. So Chicago Fire going right to left here in the first overtime frame, and then left to right for West Coast. The 17U boys semifinals, they were expected to play on this field at 9 o'clock, and that will not be the case now. I imagine because of our broadcast, they wouldn't go start that one on another field, right? They'll just wait and play here. Butler with the free kick here for Chicago Fire, as they took a little while to sort that one out. Chicago Fire work it downfield to Bahina. Bahina being chased by Galadima. That one ends up out off of the Chicago Fire, and so West Coast goalkeeper Jared Andrews will place the ball down. Again, two 15-minute halves. Nobody scores at that point. We'll head into penalty kicks. But it's not a sudden death, golden goal, winner take all type thing. They will play both of the two 15-minute halves. Everybody always jokes in situations like this, like we were doing in between breaks, is that you typically think, well, hey, somebody may come out and score a goal right away after 90 minutes of scoreless action. Well, not the case. 4 minutes into the first overtime. Lind out in front, punches it back. You saw it ticketed for the boundary and decided to keep it back in play to the best of his abilities there, but West Coast not able to do so this time, and that one ends up going out. Chicago Fire's Peter Beck looked for the cross. It was knocked away by West Coast. Beck controls on the far side and now punched out again by West Coast. Chicago Fire racing around its Connor Moat, and he just could not hold on to it. I think everybody was happy to have the day off yesterday. It was the hottest day of the week so far. A couple of areas reached 106, stayed between 100 and 106 in much of the Metroplex for most of the afternoon yesterday, and not a drop of rain. I don't think we're going to see much here today either. Right now our temperature is 82 degrees, partly cloudy skies. And the heat index has it at 89 right now as Galadima controls for West Coast. Team from California looking to get something going perhaps. They continue to possess it. Daniel Lynn up into the air. The header by Ospina. And one goes out off of the Chicago Fire. East-northeast wind 7 miles per hour. So we're seeing that turn over a bit out of the south the last few days. Looks like it's going to be out of the north before the end of the day. And we're going for a high of 96 degrees today. Shouldn't play a factor here in this one, as our this one will be over well before we reach that high temperature. Too bad they couldn't have played this next week. High of about 87 it looks like most days. May reach the 90s a little bit. 8th minute of the first overtime action here. Just a stellar defensive performance from both sides. West Coast has not been able to get their key Daniel Lind involved very much. Let's try to do that here perhaps. That one goes left into the net. On the other side, Markinek has been held down a bit. The second semifinals, or the second games, have already started on some of the other fields. Two referees will come in for a discussion for a moment. Spencer Madden for West Coast was saying that he was hit by the Chicago Fire player with the referee right there. And now the referee is coming over to talk to that Chicago Fire player. We're on like a world tour here around the... Oh, now we got a player down. Okay. Well, during that delay, that referee just ran more than I've run all week. Went over to talk to several players, and now with the player down for West Coast. Assuming they'll stop the clock here for this one. All the action was over on the near side, where the player for West Coast was complaining about being pushed. We didn't even see David Huerte go down on the far side of the field. Athletic trainer has come over on the golf cart. You may be wondering from time to time if kind of the response time of our athletic trainers, and they don't have one for every field, I do not believe. They have golf carts moving back and forth with walkie-talkie communication, and so at least that's been my vantage point of what I've been able to see. So they're still able to get where they need to go pretty quickly. Fuerte remaining down. Looks like he's about to get up. So if Fuerte is up, he's going to have to come out of the match here. I don't know if there was blood or if he threw up perhaps, because the referee went over and dumped a whole bottle of water on the spot where he was at. Wouldn't just normally do that if a player was down without something like that occurring. I think we're about ready to go again. Our clock showing the 12th minute of action. We'll adjust that accordingly if they did stop the clock there a moment ago while the player was down. Don't know if they do that in the overtime frames or not. Looked as if the Chicago Fire player there just fell down on his own. Sullivan controlling. Needs some help. A header knocked away by West Coast. Cleared out by West Coast into the seats. Oh, our camera woman down there almost got knocked in the head, I think. She's all right. She's done a good job down there throughout the last week. Our boss will be happy to know she didn't leave her post. She stayed with the camera and didn't try to stop the ball. Chicago Fire getting a little momentum perhaps, having it down at their end quite a bit as Markinick will toss it in. A foul called and Chicago Fire with a free kick coming. We got a little bit of chippy action between West Coast. West Coast and Chicago Fire getting a bit chippy there, but yeah, that referee comes in to talk to him again. So here is Manjaris. We're at about the 13th minute of overtime. Nothing going to occur there. Header from West Coast sends the ball out. Connor Moat will race to the other side to throw it in. Moat finds Sullivan. And the ball ends up out again. Another throw in here coming from Moat. About a minute and a half left in this first overtime frame. Maybe a little bit more than that if they stop play while the player for West Coast was down a little while ago. Roeder sends it in. A header on the top of the crossbar, and it will come down back in play. Does not go in. Chicago Fire still pressing. Roeder, back left side, finds Markinick. Back to Roeder. He's going to pass it back right side now. Pass a little too far away from Chicago Fire player there, but a good job to stretch for it. Down to Becht in the corner. And Becht circle around his defender. He cannot. Galadima with it. Chicago Fire come away. It's Becht. Sullivan winds it up. Miss kick. Sullivan still maintaining possession. Off of the goalkeeper and over the top of the net. A great play there from Jared Andrews to get a hand on that one. Winding down the first overtime. And a corner kick is upcoming from Elijah Manjaris for the Chicago Fire. Majerus from the corner. Off of a rebound, that one goes right at the goalkeeper, who couldn't come down with it cleanly. Well, I thought that was going to hang in the air and go over the goalpost. It did not. Actually stayed down in front of the goal. Chicago Fire still have it. Sliding tackle there by Catalan. West Coast takes over. A loose ball. Can West Coast come up with it? They will. A tripping call, a foul against Chicago Fire. Ball has been played in this overtime frame mainly at the offensive end of the Chicago Fire. Still no score between the Fire and West Coast Haney. Let's see if this flips the field position at all. Lind with a header on it, but Chicago Fire come down with it. Now West Coast up in front, played to Spencer Madden, and Madden is tripped. We've got a foul inside the box here, despite the protests from the Chicago Fire fans. Or is the referee saying just outside the box? We'll see where they place it. All right, they're going to spot this about a yard and a half outside of the box. Spencer Madden standing over it. Crucial moment here. Fans not happy with the call. Madden and Catalan both there. No score in overtime. Kick from Madden, deflected off of the defenders for the Chicago Fire. Knocked around a bit, and that is going to be the end of our first 15-minute half. We've got a break coming up here, and then we'll play another 15. No score, Chicago Fire and West Coast here from the USYS Soccer National Championships in Frisco, Texas. Start of our second half here in overtime. Another 15 minutes on the clock. Chicago Fire, West Coast Haney, no score. Chicago Fire in the red, West Coast in the navy blue, and still waiting to see what's going to break open. Who's going to be the first to strike? Nothing so far. Quite frankly, not even that many good opportunities. It's a good defensive battle, that's for sure. West Coast Haney with it. Benjamin Martin. Haven't heard from Martin in a while. Finds a teammate open inside the box there. Works it back to the middle. And Sanchez. See if West Coast gets an early opportunity. Knocked away by Ethan Butler. Oh, the attempt at the bicycle kick. It went in. West Coast scores. Are you kidding me? Yaphet Sanchez in our first minute of our second overtime. West Coast takes a 1-0 lead. Quite honestly, I didn't think there was any chance that he was going to get that one. Now all of a sudden, season on the line for Chicago Fire, who have played so well during this tournament. And a 1-1 tie against FC United, who just lost a little while ago. A 2-1 win over a team out of New York and a 5-1 win over a team out of Oklahoma. West Coast lost big time in their first matchup to Challenger Crew. Now they're about 13 minutes away from a rematch. Elijah Mangeras. West Coast takes it away. Sanchez. And a West Coast player tripped up. Alfonso Asorno. A yellow card issued to the Chicago Fire player. I would ask the question, at what point do you slow down now with a 1-0 lead? But I feel like that point's probably now because they've been playing slow the whole game. Or as long as they have the ball at their end, they might continue to apply the pressure. We're going to have a sub here for the Chicago Fire. Or are we? Okay, yep. And Jarris will go out. And Weiler back in. Oh, no, sorry, that's may have been 24. I'll wait till he turns around to get that right here in a little while. Yeah, Noah Kettle, 24. Chicago Fire coming away with it. Peter Beck at midfield, deflected off of Kevin Catalan. I believe did they call a handball there? Oh, yellow card issued. So I was looking up at the ball, didn't realize that Benjamin Martin must have tripped somebody up. Oh, we had a little push in the back there just now by Christopher Sullivan. I guess Sullivan felt like Lind was in the way of where he wanted to put the ball, but referee asked him to move it back anyways. 20th minute here, so about 10.5 minutes to go all of a sudden. Sanchez knocks it down and clears it out. That one all the way back to his goalkeeper, Jared Andrews. Boy, if Andrews has been in goal this whole tournament for West Coast, what he's been able to do after that first match, pretty remarkable. Shutout in the second contest and a 1-1 tie against Penn Fusion. Ball back to Galadima for West Coast. Some pressure by Bahina. Now Chicago Fire with it, and it's stopped by the goalkeeper. Chicago Fire wanting the foul, did not get a whistle. And Andrews with the stop there. Header by Catalan, works it down to his teammate Madden. Chicago Fire take it. Ball placed over to Moat. It's loose. West Coast punches it back to midfield. 1-0 our score. A bicycle kick goal a little bit earlier by Sanchez for West Coast. Chicago Fire dial one up into the box, and the goalkeeper Andrews is there to make the stop. 22nd minute of play here in overtime. 2 15-minute halves. Played all the way out. If the game is tied, they'll go to penalty kicks at this point. Good job there of Markinek to keep the possession, and then he was knocked down, so free kick coming for the Chicago Fire. This one has a pretty good crowd on hand with the 17U team who's supposed to play next standing all around watching along with their fans. Chicago Fire looking for the equalizing goal, perhaps. Ball still loose. Oh, they call the foul against Chicago Fire as Kevin Catalan took a hard collision. He's down. Have about 7 minutes to go now in this second half of the overtime. Ball controlled by West Coast. And it seems like the air's been taken out of this area here. Everybody quiet. Just kind of watching in anticipation, despite a big crowd being all the way around the sideline area. West Coast with it, Ospina. Ospina over to Lind. Knocked out off of Chicago Fire. Lind to throw it in. Yeah, maybe not. Give away to his teammate instead. Down to Sanchez. He had the goal a little bit earlier. Sanchez will punch another one in. It's loose. And Chicago Fire able to take it. Work down the field. A header by Jonathan Stoop for West Coast. Collision and now a whistle. See who they call this one on. Looked like both players were jockeying for position. They'll give it to Chicago Fire. Or sorry, West Coast. Sanchez works his way directly over to the corner off the obstruction there, I think all the way from the goalkeeper at the other end. What you want to do there, in a situation like this where you're winning, you work it to the corner and you force the team to come up on you to guard you, and you hope that they're the ones that knock it out. Not only waste time, but it allows you a corner kick if they do indeed knock it out. But Chicago Fire didn't, so they played it well. Got it back near midfield again. It is, however, still with West Coast. About 5 minutes to go in our overtime here. 1-0 is our score. West Coast with the lead. I don't know what it is about the late game goals from West Coast. They had one in the 83rd minute after trailing 1-0 to Penn Fusion on Thursday. A strong kick and a battle for it. Chicago Fire comes up with it. Chicago Fire's Moat into the box. Header back the other way by Madden for West Coast. Defense has just been exceptional for West Coast, not allowing much inside the box for the Chicago Fire. Really not allowing much from deep either. Moat, a header up too high. Wow. Didn't know if we were going to get the soccer ball back in play there for a moment. Only about 3 minutes left. Another sub here for West Coast. Goalkeeper used the opportunity to go get some water, but yeah, they'll stop the clock there, I think, for the sub. Well, I don't know if they will or not. That sure took a while. I feel like they probably did. Strong clear out there by West Coast. Gives it to Noah Kettle, back to the goalkeeper, and he'll punch it back up the field. No time to grab it and hold on to it for very long. Galadima to throw it in for West Coast. Misses the target. Couldn't get it to his teammate Lind. Goalkeeper for the Chicago Fire, Cade Fink, punches one out past midfield. Scramble for it. Chicago Fire have it for a moment. Galadima back out the other direction. Chicago Fire a throw in from right about midfield. About 2 or 3 minutes to go now. 1-0, West Coast leading. And we'll try this again. Sullivan tripped up, and then Sullivan takes a jab at one of the West Coast players again. Wow, Sullivan's done that a lot. No reason for that contact there, I don't think. Sullivan into the box. Header by Spencer Madden. Madden knocking it away, and now he's going to wind up a big leg kick and send it the other way, where the goalkeeper, Fink, made it all the way to midfield to keep it on the Chicago Fire side. Looked like Moat was open, couldn't quite get it to him on the far or on our near side. Sullivan tried to slide for it, cleared away again by West Coast. Lind with an open net and just missed. Didn't realize that the goalkeeper was that far off from the net till the ball was in the air and realized there was nobody there. Kind of have to play that way if you're Chicago Fire at this point. You need every advantage you can get. West Coast decides to park this one into the parking lot. I'll get the extra soccer ball out. Keep play going as quick as they can. Going to make the Chicago Fire player, John Schuler, go back a little bit. Depending on how much they stop the clock for a little bit earlier during those subs, we're sitting at maybe a minute left. Chicago Fire trailing 1-0. Able to get down into the box here. Here comes an attempt perhaps. No, a header still into the air. And now the semi-bicycle kick from Orsono to kick it back out. Roeder comes up with it for Chicago Fire. Long pass into the box, a header from West Coast. Cleared out by West Coast now. Good placement down on the ground that time by Chicago Fire. Good hustle. However, West Coast does come up with it. Fink will do what he can to chase this down. Keep the dribble alive up the field, left side over to Ethan Butler. A spot in the championship game on the line. West Coast Haney leads Chicago Fire 1-0, an overtime goal. After we played to zeros in regulation. Tigre up in front right side. Moat sends it back across. Here comes a big windup. Tackle stop there. Ball in the air. Here comes an attempt too high over the goal post. And we have players down for both sides. The player for Chicago Fire is up. We've got pushing back and forth between West Coast and Chicago Fire. We lost one soccer ball into the parking lot. I think we just lost another one onto the other field, and good thing they've got three. Here comes another one. Everybody's back up now. Oh, here comes the soccer ball. Now we got two on the field. Still just a little bit of opportunity. Time definitely running out for the Chicago Fire. A referee over on the sidelines with the player for West Coast. Not quite sure what the delay is right now. Our referee racing down the field to talk to somebody. I don't know what that had to do with. There's the whistle. We're back to play. Not exactly sure what all that was all about. Ball will go out of bounds in front of the West Coast Haney bench. Throw in from the Chicago Fire. They trail 1-0, running out of time. Kettle works it back to the goalkeeper, Fink, and the ball placed up the left side. Here comes the Chicago Fire. All the West Coast players somewhat backpedaling. Roeder at the midway mark had it partially knocked away, and we have a whistle and a foul called. And now he is down in quite a bit of pain. He is still down. We've got about every delay imaginable in this one. Of course, you know he doesn't want to stay down in this moment, but they're gonna play on with him still down. Or are they? Maybe not. Well, this one's gotten a bit interesting here in the final 5-10 minutes. Kind of unsure as to what's happening out there at times. Maybe the last opportunity for the Chicago Fire. And a second goalkeeper in for West Coast Haney, and he ends up making that. Actually, that was the goalkeeper, Cade Fink, who had the header, and Jared Andrews made the stop. West Coast Haney is on to the championship. They have defeated Chicago Fire 1-0 in overtime. The goal from Yafet Sanchez made the difference. 1-0 West Coast Haney defeats Chicago Fire in a good tournament run here by Chicago Fire, as they will finish with a record of 2-1-1. And meanwhile, play will continue for West Coast as they go to 2-1-1 as well. They will take on Challenger Crew. We'll have that game for you right here at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning on Field 4. Thanks for watching this one. This has been coverage of the U.S. Youth Soccer National Championships from the Toyota Soccer Center in Frisco, Texas. I'm Michael Westbrook. So long for now.